So I wanted to take a second and just do a video that was about logging your information in your placement SAE. So if you've seen any of my videos before, these are going to be familiar to you. They are placement SAEs. That's what the PL stands for over here. Placement, if you're not familiar, means that you are working for someone. That can be a paid or unpaid job where you are responsible for work, but you are not the person financing it. You're not the owner of anything. You are a hired hand. So when I made these examples, I made them paid placements. And so this video is going to show you how to do both financial entries and journal entries for working for someone. So ideally, you should already have some SAE created here. If you do not have that, please go back and watch a different video first and then come back here to learn how to log your information. Once you have your SAE made and you have your planning done, which means that you would have your signatures, you would have all of your stuff done, then you can begin entering in information. You can backdate information on SAE, but you can never skip ahead, right? Because we don't know what exactly you're going to have achieved next month, but you can look back and see what you did over the last year or so, okay? So in my examples, I am working for Healy Farms Incorporate. What I can do here is I can hit financial, and I'm gonna hit a new financial entry. Again, I am working for someone, so that's a placement SAE. So all I'm going to do is just look for placement SAE. Placement SAE, paycheck, that is exactly what I am saying I'm earning. So that's the button I'm going to click. Now this auto-populated all three of my different types of SAEs on that one farm. Okay, because it recognizes that this was one farm, but it has three different areas of agriculture that I'm working with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the date here to wherever my paycheck date was. So maybe I got paid last Friday, so May 30th. On my paycheck, I would be told what my total gross income is. Maybe this was $800. Taxes and withholdings. If you have taxes and withholdings on your paycheck, you would enter that in. So let's say, for example, this was $50. Any expenses would be pay that you lost. So in some instances, maybe you broke something, maybe you caused an expense on the business. If you work for a restaurant, this is where they would be writing in any food that you ate while you were working, if that's not already covered, that they would pull from your paycheck automatically. So that's what any expense column's for. In this instance, let's assume I didn't break anything. And then it's going to ask you how many hours would you work in that paycheck. So if this paycheck is for the whole month of May, how many hours did I work the month of May? Let's say I worked 100 hours. Okay, so if I made $800 in the month of May, and it was split evenly between all three of these, which I could change by typing in different percentage amounts here, this is how much money would go to each one of those. And I could also just leave a memo or a note on what that payment is. So I could just say May paycheck if I want to. And then I have some options down here on how to save it. I can save and go back. I can save and enter another paycheck, or I could save in journal time and skills. I highly encourage you to always do save in journal time and skills, because even though you told me that you worked 100 hours here, you have not technically journaled what you did during those hours yet, and so that would not count for your SAE. Okay? This is simply focusing on the amount of money. This is necessary for your journal entries to match up with it, to say like, yes, these hours correlated to this paycheck, but this only counts as a financial entry, okay? And so for awards, for grades, this does not count for journaling your time, all right? So this is the button we would push, and then it's going to take us straight to this page where we can add or edit a journal entry. The date stayed at what I had selected, and now it's going to ask me to choose between my three projects, okay? So what did I do with beef for that third of the month? Okay, so those 100 hours, maybe I spent 25 of them. I was feeding cattle. I mixed rations and delivered them to the correct pen. I was responsible for filling water and ensuring that mineral blocks were available. Okay, so I put some time in there. I said exactly what I did, and now I need to give it a skill. Okay, it's not going to let me save without a skill. So I have to say, what skill did I learn during that time? Okay, so when you made your project plan, you should have had some standards or some objectives already selected, and that's what would pop up right here. Because I didn't accomplish that first, it's telling me I have none. So what I could do is I can go to animal systems, and I can look for one that has to do with feeding the animals. So I can look at analyze the nutritional needs of animals. That's something I worked on. And then maybe I also did help my parents come up with a new ration for some of the calves we have. So I could hit this button too. Okay. You only need one, but you can have multiple there. The last thing I need to do is make sure that what I put here matches those skills, right? So I talked about analyzing the nutritional needs of animals, and maybe I need to say I also worked with Mr. Healy. And again, for future year sanity, we're going to be saying who these people are, not just saying my dad or my mom. So I also worked with Mr. Healy to create a new ration for the yearlings. Okay, and so now I've used my description to say how I did those two things. I have how many hours, what that's for. If I had any pictures of me working and doing this, I could upload them here. Again, pictures are necessary for future awards, applications, items of that nature. And then if anybody is able to verify this, I would select them over here. So the supervision would come up with your parents, your ag teacher, or the supervisor whom you had gotten a signature for when you made your SAE. So once that's all set, you hit save, or in my case, because I've only logged 25 of my 100 hours, I could save and enter another. Okay, so this time I'm going to choose my beef operation. Or excuse me, I'm going to choose the corn operation. And I'm going to say I spent probably 40 hours, and I was attending, past tense because this already happened, attended meetings with local agronomists and seed salesmen, worked with Mr. Healy to prepare our planter. Okay, and so I want to stop here because this is a very common thing for people to do, and I want to make sure you guys have a way of recognizing it. So I said I worked with Mr. Healy to prepare our planter. Okay, I live at this farm. I've probably been doing this for a while, and so for me, it's normal for me to call any of the machinery, the land, the animals, ours or mine. However, I did not buy this planter, and I don't intend to buy this planter, okay? So I need to make sure that I say his planter, or their planter, or Mr. Healy's planter, okay? I need to make sure that how I'm wording it matches what I'm doing, okay? So if you do own it, absolutely call it yours, say the word our, say we, but if you are not the owner, then don't use that type of language, okay? Again, we need to add a skill, so this is for corn, so I'll go under plants. And maybe during that meeting I did this thing. And then while I worked on some equipment, and that's not going to be under plant systems, working on equipment is going to be under power structural and technical. So I'm going to go under here and I'm going to look and see, yep, I operated machines while being safe. I did some maintenance. That looks good. Save and go back. Again, any pictures, making sure that what I say here matches the standards I picked, so maybe I need to add one about being safe. So I'm going to say, made sure I had views or could identify anything behind me as I maneuvered the tractor around the yard. Okay. Again, it's a super simple sentence. We're just trying to say how we accomplish that skill. Any pictures if I was supervised, and then save. Okay. now we see that we have 2 journal entries. Those 2 journal entries equal 65 hours, and we know based on our financial entry that I still have 35 hours to go. So if I forgot to do a journal entry, what I can do is just go up to the top here and go to Journal. That's the page that I'm on. It's going to pop up this box that says Add New Journal Entry. I'm going to hit Time in your SAE, okay, because again, we're just logging time in our SAE. So then I'm going to do soybeans because that's the one I forgot. Okay, so we had 35 hours, and I'm going to say spraying fields to keep weeds away. I also helped with fixing broken equipment from planting this spring. Okay, and now I need to get some skills that match that. So I need a skill for spraying and a skill for fixing something broken. So spraying has to do with the plants. So I'm going to go through here and look for something about applying chemical, making sure that I'm being safe. All right, so this one says pest management, so that's technically not our weeds. It's going to be insects related. So I'm not seeing one under here. So what I can do is I can look under other ones. And I'm thinking if I'm having to do with chemicals or spraying, I could be under biotech, I could be under environmental, or natural resources. Let's see, biotechnology. Looking for something that has to do with being safe with chemical application. This one right here says safe manage and dispose of biological materials, chemicals, and waste according to standard operating procedures. I definitely was safe while using and disposing of chemicals, so therefore that standard applies. And this one has to do with working in a lab, so I can't choose that one even though I was operating them safely. And so I'm going to keep that guy, and then I need to find one about fixing something that's broken. So again, we're working on machinery that's under power and structural. I'm going to look for something that has to do with repair. Okay, so I see the word repair. Troubleshoot, service, and repair components of engines using guidelines. Service electrical systems, or using the manufacturer's equipment regarding hydraulics, transmission, steering, etc. So whatever I was repairing, they all have a different standard. So this one is about engines, this one's about electrical, and this one's about everything else essentially. So whatever I was fixing, that's the standard I can apply. I save and go back. My 2 standards match my description. I don't have any pictures to update, and I don't have a supervisor to say, so I'm just going to hit save. So now my FCE hours equals 100, and if I go to finances, that's going to match my financial entry I made. And so that's what this column, like this box shows me. It shows me where I can enter another paycheck or where I can enter any non-SAE entries. But again, we're just focusing on your SAE, so we're only going to focus on this guy for your placement. So if I hit paycheck, I can enter another one. If I feel like I made a mistake on my paycheck, the way to go find that is to go back to your finance page and hit review and edit. And so what this did is it pulled up my paycheck I typed in, okay? So it's going to say, hey, for the May 30th May paycheck, I had $50 in withholding, and I made $266.66 on beef, soybeans, and corn, okay? So if I feel like I messed up any of that, I can just hit the edit button over here, and it takes me back to that original page we were at, and I could say, oh, maybe this actually needs to be, this was really just 35 hours. This one was 40. This one was 25. Okay? And notice how, like, if I put 30 here, this would tell me, hey, they got to equal 100%. So I can look at this and be like, oh, yeah, you're right. Go back to 25 and be all set. Okay? And I can either delete this transaction or I could have my other normal options as well. So save and return. Let's say you feel like you made a mistake on your journal entries. Okay, so you would go to journal. You could review your journal entries over here. And then One thing that you want to make sure you do for your SAE is just filter it to your SAEs, because anything you've done in FFA or in other SAEs could also pop up here. And so what you want to make sure you pick is your experience-related activity, okay? And that's going to keep your SAE-specific ones up here. If you picked FFA office activity, so anything you did as an FFA officer that you journaled, that would be here. So we want to make sure we stay with experience-related, so that way it's easier to filter through. So at this point, I can see how many skills I had, how many hours it was I worked, what it was I said I did, what date I said it was, when I put in that information, and I can go back and edit them. Okay, so again, this all looks the same way it was before, but I can also add a new journal entry here as well. So if like, oh, I forgot to do something else, I can just make that quick journal entry and be all set to go. So otherwise, that is how you do both a journal and a financial entry for a paid placement. If you are not being paid, then you simply just have the journal entry. But hope that helps, and have a good day. Bye.